Well, hello, hotties. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Today, we are learning all about how to have a hot business. And this is really around my process for building businesses. So, if I have a newbie that comes to me, if I have someone that is kind of feel like that they're stuck at a growth ceiling or they want to scale, every single client that I have goes through this process. If you're new to me, I've been in business since, officially 2008, but I started trading in 2009. I've done a lot since then. I had a Pilates studio in regional New South Wales. I had that for 8 years and expanded that brand to like a big online health brand. I was a health writer for almost every single health publication in Australia. I had a Pilates DVD. I've done a lot of writing. And I'm going to be honest with you, like, when we talk about making money online and building a business, this should be the easiest thing that we do. And the reason it is the easiest thing that we do is we basically decide what our goal is, what we're selling, who we're selling it to in our process. That's it. And that is decided. And where the hard part is the execution, dealing with our mindset, and then dealing with everything that kind of comes up from that. So what we're actually going to do in today's workshop is you are going to learn this process. I have a worksheet that we are going to go through. We're not going to go through the whole worksheet because when you do that, you'll be like, this is really, really like it's quite big. We're going to do the top part. And then in the top part, this is going to kind of flag how the rest of it has to be filled out as well. It's so interesting that I've looked at kind of what was happening online in kind of like stuff that I've seen probably like unfold over the last year. And I don't know if some of you have felt like this, but it was interesting to me, the advice that was sold as scalable, right? It's like, this is going to teach you how to scale to 20K months. And then the plan changes at 30. And then the plan changes at 40. And then the plan changes at 50. And we have a lot of entrepreneurs that have growth plans that come with a ceiling. And the problem is with that is when you are getting the success that you want and shit is going well, do you want to slam the brakes on to be like, okay, we have to pause everything because now we actually have to go back to the drawing board and determine how this looks. I could see this happen with a lot of the advice online of people that kind of felt like that they would hit their next growth goal and then the whole process would have to start again. And I was like, well, this is kind of madness because scale implies scale, and scale implies that when we have a plan, there is no ceiling. The sooner you can realize that there is some stuff and even beliefs that we have in our business that have an invisible ceiling attached. And it's why we feel like we do something and then we kind of can't get past it. It's like, what is this? I can't kind of like push through. And that's because there is that ceiling on the plan. Now, something that I believe, and you'll see this when you look in the Notion template, you'll notice that I'm not telling you, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. When we look at actually having a scalable plan in our business, this is like a tailored suit and it is tailored to us. So the plan that I have for my business is going to look really different to what Sil is doing. It is going to look different to what Liv is doing and Rachel is doing. Now, when we zoom out, there are going to be a lot of similarities, but what we want to make sure is that we actually have a growth plan that actually works for us. Now, when we look at, for example, Alex Hormozy is a great example. I actually think he is a legend at business. And a lot of people are like, I don't like him. His advice just is terrible. He has very different end goals to most people. When we look at a lot of people want to have a beautiful lifestyle business, he wants to build a business up. He has a lot of staff and then they exit for a profit. For a lot of you on this call, I'm going to say you probably don't want to do that, but we can look at this and it's like, if you take business advice from Alex Hormozy, you can see how there's a disconnect because you both have completely different endpoints. And I'm not saying that you completely ignore what he says, because I do also think in online business land, what we don't want to ever do is put ourselves in a vacuum where we are only around people where it's like we all agree with the same thing. I think it is excellent when we are challenged. But I think what we need to get really clear on is that we actually have to have our business working for us. So as we're going through today, something that I think would be really epic for you all to think about is I want you to just remove like any logic, which is hard. And I'm Virgo. I have so much Virgo in my chart. It'd make you sick. But remove any logic. And I want you to think about the business that you actually want. And what I mean by that is I will talk to a client and they'll be like, oh, would love to make 200 grand a year. And I only want to work in school hours and I want to do this like Tuesday to Thursday. And it's interesting that they'll say that, what they want, and then they'll be like, oh, but that just can't happen because of this. And I'm like, pause. It can happen. The thing is, when we look at this process, is it's like we need to get really clear on what this endpoint or what we're working towards looks like. And remember that the plan supports the goal. So if we keep changing the goal, this is where we're going to be doing stuff in our business. And we're like, why am I doing this? I don't really like what I'm doing. So what I want you to get really clear on and think about the endpoint that you are working towards. Another thing to think about is, and this is going to be really big for the people that are the service providers, especially if you have transitioned from corporate and you have now transitioned into working for yourself and you're kind of doing the same thing. So for people that were in marketing and you're like, I can't stand working for someone else, I'm going to start my own business. What we want to make sure is that we don't actually build a job for ourselves. Okay. We don't want to just replace our corporate income. We want to make sure that when we're actually building a business, that our business works for us. Because one of the worst things that we can do is create a plan that when we stop in our business, everything stops. And I asked Claude this. I was like, can you tell me the difference between someone that approaches their business with like an employee sole trader mindset versus someone that approaches it with a bigger business? We've got 2 slides to look at here, but just compare both of them. Ask yourself like what category you fall into. Like when we look at the employee like sole trader mindset and strategic vision, it's like we're going to focus on the immediate tasks. So what this looks like, it's like you're really reactive in your business. What am I doing today? What am I doing this week? What's happening right now? Again, reactive rather than proactive. So it's like responding to usually what has to happen, primarily concerned with completing work and getting paid. This looks like I just need to get these clients. I'm going to lock in this work. It's really around like what is happening with your clients and then what is happening, like how that directly ties to the results that you have in your business. We're trading time for money. We see income as linear and limited, and we're usually hesitant to invest in business growth. This was me with my first business. I was like, I don't want to spend any money because what I was thinking is that anytime I spent $1, I saw that not being invested. I saw it being taken away from me. And then if we look at the other side, you can see here, and this is where you may be in this first category. You read this second one and you're like, oh, but this is really what I want. We actually know what we're working towards, that we actually have a plan geared for the life that we want. We see the business as an ecosystem, not just immediate tasks. We create long-term roadmaps that do support that vision. We focus on profit because that's important, not just revenue. And you can see the difference with both of them. And then if we go across to the next page, there's even more. What is really interesting, if we look at point number 2 on the left slide, sees business as a job and not a scalable entity. And this is probably the biggest trap that I see service providers or brand new business owners fall into, is they will just go and recreate a job for themselves with less benefits. And they'll work more and they'll have usually lower standards because you think about it, if you work for a company, someone else is usually vetting the work. You know that you're going to get paid regardless. Where when it comes to our livelihood, this is where it becomes a bit different. Especially if we're surviving on our business, we're supporting our family, we're like, oh, I've got to take this client. I have to take this client because I have to pay the bills. And you can see the difference between both of them. And this is where one of the best things that we can start to do is really transition ourselves into this more CEO thinking. Even if we just want a business where it's just us and we don't have any staff, we can still do this. And the cool thing is that when you actually have this differentiation, you'll make much better decisions in your business and you will start to actually set your business up in a way where, it doesn't need you. And this is where it's like, if we're going to have to work, we want to make sure that we're working on that because this is where it's going to have the greater lifestyle returns compared to feeling like that we're kind of just working to get the next paycheck. And this all comes back to how the plan actually looks, right? The biggest risk to any business, right? I see this all the time. People are like, AI is going to take my job. AI is not going to take your job. You know what will take your job? You thinking like an employee, where when we look at the average business does not even last 3 years, that is going to take your job. And that makes me sad because what we're doing is we've just again built a job for ourselves. When it comes to building a business and timelines, sometimes you will have a really good plan, but it is just not going to happen within the timeline that we want. Sometimes it does not even mean that the plan is failing because what we need to remember as business owners, we are relying on other people to make decisions to work with us, to give us money, and we cannot control that. I am not for manipulating people to get a purchase. I'm not for any of that. And sometimes people are just going to take their own time because we do not know what is happening in their world. And how I look at this is it's like when you put clothes in the washing machine and it says there's 17 minutes left. And we all know sometimes it says 17 minutes and we're like, how is it 25 minutes later and there's still 2 minutes on there? But we still kind of it's like, how does this happen, right? But what's really interesting though is in business, when we're not dealing with machines, when we're dealing with other people. So what I want you to think about is the more work that you do in your business, the more proactive work you do, the more that you are in alignment, the sales conversations you have, the good work that you put out there, sales washing machine. So anytime I have conversations, I follow people up, I imagine a little washing machine. And I imagine that I have all these little washing machines going and I never know when one is going to pop off. Because why business is so fun is we never know what the next day is going to bring us. We can have an incredible plan. And this is where when you work to the plan, sometimes it can just feel like money falls out of the sky because of all the work that we've done, putting all of our little washing machines on. So stay the course. And even if you are not getting the results that you want, this is where moving forward, I want you to change the metrics that we're aiming for as like proactive action. It is not the results. It is being like, this is the plan I'm working for, and I'm going to go and do all of these steps. And if it takes a little bit longer for the results to catch up, so be it. But I know that I'm on the right path. We have our goal that we're working towards. We have our offerings, products, and services. So this is like what we sell. So for me, for example, I have a random check on my desk. I don't know where this number came from, but I'm like, what would it look like to make $620,000? Someone's like, that's very obscure. I'm like, I love that number. It's a bit weird. So that would be the goal. In that goal, there are a couple of other things. Then we look at the offerings, products, and services. Give good email, business bang, my $35 offer. This looks like what people pay you for. When they come into your world, what are they buying? That's that category. Then we look at the next one down, lead generation and visibility. So how are you getting in front of new people? We all need to have a lead generation and visibility strategy. For a lot of us, it's going to be Instagram. Maybe this is LinkedIn. Maybe you do ads, whatever it is. Like, what is your strategy to get in front of new eyeballs? And then, of course, we need a sales strategy. Is the most important thing. Sales comes before the service. Notice here or nowhere on here, there's delivery. This is where a lot of the time we're like, we get really bogged down in what we do, our job, but we need to remember everything that kind of comes before that. Now, what I want you to look at this like is a pipeline. If we aren't clear on our goals and what we're working towards, it doesn't matter what we're selling, because this is where you see this all the time. People who have reached a milestone within their business and they're like, oh, I built my business to $1 million a year and I hated it. Isn't that interesting? And it's because if we are creating a business for a particular point, that it needs to be where we're starting. Right? Otherwise, we run the risk of creating a plan to support a life that we don't want. How silly is that? And this is also where I see people obsess about messaging. If I hear one more person say, oh, I just need to get my messaging right, I'm like, maybe you need to actually have a sales conversation. Maybe it's not about that. Or maybe you need to actually sell office products and services that are in line with the goal that you want. Or maybe you need to do a more of a lead generation strategy. So you can see here how if there is a block in one of these areas, it affects everything that then flows through next. And even if we're still getting money in our business, where this can affect is how you feel about your business and your energy level. And we don't want that. We want you to feel really deeply satisfied. We all know how to score things out of 5. Yeah. Like if I was like, we're going to give this a little score out of 5, 5 out of 5 being like I'm incredible. Give me a gold medal. 0 out of 5 being like, grab the paddles, I need some CPR. We're good on that? Yep. Okay, cool. I can only see Sil on my screen and she's nodding, so she is the spokesperson for the whole group. If you got a problem with that, you're going to have to take this up with her. Okay, now, if you're new to me, you may not have an understanding of this, but when we think about having a standard, this is almost like rule or requirement that we have. We all have standards in our life and our business. We may not be conscious of them, but we will all have standards of what we accept. So some people have a standard that they're happy to get the work, even if it is a terrible client or even if they're having to discount. Some people have a standard that they're kind of just going to show up based on their mood. You see this a lot where a lot of people that you'll look up to in your business, in business, have a really high standard around things, where it's like the work always gets done. I post every single day. I have a sales conversation. People that you love in business will usually have a really high standard within the area that you actually love. Even if that standard is, I am going to be my authentic self every single day, even if it means turning away current money to honor myself. That's a standard. this is going to be the work that actually locks in your plan. And this is going to feel at times a little bit uncomfortable. Now, this is probably going to be new for a lot of you. Have we heard about anything about a leverage point before? So when we look at a leverage point is a place within a system where a small shift can lead to a very significant change. So an example of this would be something like you could have a business that gets so many online inquiries, that like 100 a day, and the business is freaking out. What do we do? We've got all these people. When you actually look at the business, you're like, well, then why do they need to speak to someone? They can be really self-sufficient and book this in themselves. So a leverage point could be that we actually could put an automated system in with emails where now those 100 leads a day get an automated response and they can book themselves in. So you can see how this one small thing can deliver a really significant change within a business. So when we look at this from a business perspective, this is a place where investments can be made to bring the greatest return. So where we're going to invest either some of our time or a little bit of money, or we're going to do something maybe once or a little bit every day, and then that is going to deliver a really big return within our business. All right. This is going to be the process of what we're going to do. So if you're not using the Notion sheet, what you're going to do is a little table. In the first column, you're going to write goal. In the second column, offering. The third column, lead gen, and then sales. And then underneath that in the rows, rate a score out of 5. Then you're going to write what's working, a leverage point, and then a standard. Okay, so let's go to the first category. So when we look at goals in your business, as I said, this is what we're working towards. This is our North Star. It is really important for you to determine if you want to have a lifestyle business. What I mean by that is if you want a business that supports your life and considers the life that you want, compared to you building something that you're going to exit from. And this is what I was talking about before with Alex Hormozy. He exits businesses. So he is happy to work 100-hour week and hire all these staff knowing that he is going to sell this for a profit. So it's really clear that you have an understanding of that. Another thing that it's really clear on is that you have an understanding of the boundaries and the standards that you want. I don't want you, as I said earlier on the call, to think that you have to do things to make $1. If you do not want to work Friday, you do not have to work Friday. Now, there may be some times where you are going to have to compromise. And like if you have a big project, you're going to have to find some hours. Maybe it's not on a Friday. Maybe it's a weekend. Maybe it's later in the night. But what I want you to think about is like, what is the business you want? And then what is the life you want? Even if it feels impossible, like what is something that you actually really want within your business? Now, I have an example here, which is pretty out there for fitness. So I never work school holidays. We close the business down every school holidays, which is wild in fitness that you take people's Pilates away from them for such a long time. The only difference was in Christmas, we only had a 3-week break, but we shut for 3 weeks. It was so interesting that people were like, you're going to lose clients. And I'm like, but if I lose clients, I don't have a great business. If I lose clients, I'm not training my clients when they're in the studio to go and do work outside of the studio. I'm not developing their skills enough that they kind of know what to do. I also didn't work before 8 o'clock in the morning. So I worked 3.5 days a week. I didn't work before 8 o'clock in the morning. There were no classes on the weekends. I did a full day Monday, full day Tuesday, half day Wednesday, full day Thursday. Every school holiday's off. And when you tell people that, it's so funny that they're like, but how? And I'm like, because I decided that first. You know, if I'm in business for me, I want to reflect on the life that I have lived and not realize that I have lived for other people. You can make anything happen, but this is when we have that standard again, right? The standard locks it in. The standard is I honor the work boundaries that I set. What I want you to think about is what do you really want? Even if this feels like it's something that's probably a 3-year goal and not something you can work towards now, what do you want? But, you know, if you're like, I want a holiday, I want time off, you can have that. But this is where you need to be really clear on what this looks like. Okay, so write that down what you actually want. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You want to make sure with your goals that you never go to the friends in business that always have shit happening and they're really drama affirming, because they're going to be the people that reveal their limits within the advice that they give you, which is why I am like, you can have whatever you want. We just have to have a plan. So what we want to think about as well, the 4th point is so important to think about. One of the mistakes that I see people make is they will think incrementally. So I will have a client that comes to me and they'll be like, I want to make $5,000 a month. And then I'll say, okay, cool. Well, if anything was possible, like I'm waving my magic wand, what would you want? And then all of a sudden the figure goes to 50 grand a month. And I'm like, okay, well, what's happened here? What's happened with this extra 45 grand? So what I want you to think about is it's like, if you know the end point that you want, have that be your start point, because that's what we're going to work towards. You think about it. If you are creating a plan for 5,000 a month compared to 50,000, stuff is going to look a little different with what you sell and how you sell it and where your priorities need to be. So it is a lot easier to kind of have the business that you want from the start and create that plan. Even if you've got to grow into that, we want to do that from the start. What we also want to consider, and this is going to be something that you're all going to have to go away and probably do some math on and think about this, is we want to consider our money goals and our profit for everything. When we actually look at our goal, we need to remember that this has to pay our wage. If we are GST registered, we need to pay GST, we need to pay tax, we need to pay our business outgoings. What you want to remember as well is if you want to ever go on like, I follow Alexandra Franzen and she does writing retreats in Hawaii, which just seem amazing. It's something I'd love to do. If I want to do that, that has to be factored in to my business goal because my business pays for that. That does not come out of my wage. In business, it's not either or. It's not, I can either do this or pay myself. It's and. And this is where for some of you, quite often what I have to do with clients is for the person that said 8 to 10K a month, this may now go to 12. Because when we look at this, we don't want you to be like, oh, well, I'll just live on less. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're inflating the goal to account for everything that we want in life because we can have everything. And then the last thing to think about is we want to ensure that we have a bad days business model. For the service providers that are in this call, this is probably going to be one of the biggest shifts that you are going to have to make. We want to make sure that our ability to earn, it's not determined by our output of labor. If you get sick and you cannot work for one whole month, if your business completely pauses and you can't earn any money, we have a problem. We put so much pressure on ourselves because what we need to remember is we're a human running a business and stuff is going to happen and life is going to happen. And if we rely on every day being sunny and having fabulous hair and us ovulating and like we've just walked out the door and had 50 compliments, that's not probably going to happen, right? That'd be great if it happened. But what you want to think about is I want you to just imagine a really bad day. How can I ensure that I can still get paid and my plan can still happen even when life is happening? So what you want to think about is when we create our business plan, we don't want to think that every day is going to be perfect because it's not. We want a plan that when life is basically railing us, that we can still get paid. So what we're going to do now is I want you to think about all of these points here. And I want you to think about your current goal and how you're setting it. And then what we're going to do is we are going to rate it out of 5. You're going to write down what's something that's working really well. Then you're going to write down a leverage point. What's a small shift that you can make to deliver a big outcome? And then what is a standard to lock that in? I'll use myself as an example. Goal out of 5. I'm going to say I'm 5 out of 5. I know what I want. I know how it's going to look. I have really strong boundaries. Everything is worked out. I've worked my numbers out. What's working really well? I've got Virgo organization and it's something that we can grow into. It is actually truly scalable. A leverage point could be that sometimes with my spicy little brain, I can get really distracted in fun projects that I'm doing. I'm like, I love this. And sometimes I can forget about the big picture. So the easiest leverage point for me could be checking in once a week on the North Star of my business and what I'm doing. That's really simple because it keeps me on track. And then a standard is I stick to the plan, even if the results are not currently there. So can we kind of see here how when we're working through this framework, it's like you're all going to have something that's working in your business. Even if you're like, nothing's working, it is. And you know how I know it's working? Because you're here. Like you have actually committed to upskilling. So even if you are like, my business is a fucking bin fire, it's not. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, I'm a consultant. You are working with a consultant to better your business. So even if you're like, there is an area here which really sucks, it's not going to, because the thing is we're technically working on it right now. How fun is that? Now we're going to go to our offers, products, and services. So this is what you're selling. As I said, this is for me like my Give Good Email, my business bang, my $35 offer. What we want to make sure when we look at what we're selling is that we have offers that feel like that they are an extension of us. If you haven't already, go back and watch You Are the Trend. It is on YouTube and it's also on the podcast. Although this is really around content, I did say in the call that it also can extend so much to the offers and products and services that you are selling. What we want to make sure though is that, again, and you'll notice there's a crossover here. It's like we price for profit. We consider a bad day's business model. We want to make sure that at least one of our offers is scalable, profitable, and on brand. So for those service providers in the room, one of the smartest things that you can do is to put your brain into some kind of intellectual property that can be run one to many, or it can be run passive. So what we can get really curious on here is like, what good work are we sitting on? The problem is going to be for a lot of you is that the process that you do is like so close to your face because you do it every single day. You're probably going to overlook stuff. So what you can do here is a bit of an audit on the transformation that you deliver, where you kind of spend like the bulk of your time, what unique processes you've created, and ask yourself, what would it look like to create, a passive or a scalable offer within that? What you also need to determine as well is your business model and where you're positioning yourself. So are you going for mass market or exclusive and premium? Some of the advice that I see online tells people that they should go low cost and sell high volume. That's fine if you want to spend a fuck ton on Facebook ads and you want to really prioritize your lead gen and your visibility. And that is probably going to be something that you are going to have to do paid marketing with. Now, if you don't want to do that, this is where for you, it may be a wise idea to have a pricing that is a little bit more higher end, knowing that you don't want to work with everyone. And it's not like you've got this McDonald's business model where you want to be everywhere to all of the people. If I feel like I'm repeating myself with some stuff, it's because it's so important and I really want this to sink in. We want to make sure as well is that we at least have one offer that is scalable, where we are not selling our labor, but we are selling a transformation. One of the reasons I created Give Good Email is back in the day, I was doing basically the same work for every client. Every client came to me feeling like that they had a really unique situation. Like, I need email marketing strategy. No one can possibly have a business as messy as me. And I'm thinking, I just did the work for 2 other clients this morning, and it's been quite similar. What I did is I worked out that I don't need to do this. I need to kind of sell them the transformation, and I can put that into an asset. I created Give Good Email. So what you can think about here with your offers, products, and services is, what offers do you have within your business that actually work for you? Like, if you're doing this work for clients, you're facilitating change. What do you have that actually supports you? Now, I want to say as well is that when we are an entrepreneur, we sign up for uncertainty. So we need to just remember this with what we're selling. So our cash flow, although you may want to work to stable months, I'm going to be really honest with you. We're not stable here. We've had big months and we've had small months. I think at the start of the year, I had a 65 grand month, and then we went down to 10K. What my thing is and what I do is I ensure that our lowest month can cover my wage and the running costs of my business, and everything else is cream on top. So just keep that in mind, that you are still going to have refund requests or clients that don't pay or projects that get pulled or things that happen. That is life. It's unfortunate. You can have the best contracts, the best clients in the world. Stuff is still going to happen. So what we want to make sure is that we do have some stuff within our business that does support us, and knowing that there may be a little bit of a fluctuation with how things are going to look every single month. This is where it does get hard, especially for the people that have a bricks and mortar location. So what you want to make sure with this, and when you actually look at creating your plan, what I want everyone to think about is, it's like sometimes you'll go to this category and you'll be like, yes, this needs a bit of work. And when you work on this, you'll be like, okay, hold on, now the goal has to change. I thought I had to make 10K a month, but knowing this now, I probably need to make 15K a month. So what you're going to go and do is kind of just like slowly just change everything. It's like when you cook a recipe and you're like, this needs salt. And then you put salt in and you're like, oh, this is really good, but it just needs a little bit of lime. Okay, yes, now this is perfect. A little block of mine is making a product that doesn't already exist. While I'm a digital service provider, the market is saturated, though I know this is a self-limiting belief. Okay, can I be so honest with you, beautiful? You want a saturated market. The reason you all want a saturated market is because you then don't have to do the hard work of educating people why they need something. You just need to be a bit better, or a bit sexier, or a bit different, or a bit more entertaining, or a bit more fun than someone else. A new coffee shop can open on the street, and if the exterior looks beautiful, people want to go there. Like, if the coffee is a little bit better, people want to go there. Where this is going to be hard is if you are doing something that is so out there that no one's heard of, and then you need to talk them into doing it. When I started my Pilates studio, no one knew what it was. They thought we wore leotards. I think they thought it was physical culture, right? Trying to tell people about Pilates was insane. I ended up selling my business in 2017 and everyone's like, oh, that would have been great. I'm like, no. I said, because I was in a regional town and no one really knew what it was. So I had to do so much hard work on educating. You think about it, you just need people to go before you do the thing and then you need to just come in and do it better. That's it. So if you are in a saturated space, congratulations, because every single person that has gone before you has warmed every single person up. And this is where, again, you get to put your genius into something, release an offer, have it do well, and you'll be laughing. So that is a limiting belief. I love that you've caught that. And this is where, again, we can have this reflected within the standard that we set. But what I would love for you all to do, and this is something that I give my clients, is I make them do profitability checks on every single offer. This is really important. And I probably have a 70% cry rate with this, where if I give it to a client, that 70% of them will cry every time. And what we do is we will build in their hourly rate. What you want to think about with your hourly rate is this is not necessarily what you're taking from your business, but you want to make sure, especially if you want staff, you need to pay yourself entitlements, build that in, knowing that your outgoings of your business have to come out of this as well. So this is where you'll do all of your expenses. You account for your GST and your tax, and you'll see down the bottom the profit of the offer. I love to overestimate the tax. I've got a 30% tax rate here. I'd rather have more money in the bank than less and then have a surprise. But I get all my clients to do this. You will be so surprised the amount of service providers that don't break even. None of them. And where you want to do this now is it is very hard if you realize that you are not profitable and you have to double the price of an offer, or you need to take out deliverables and then you have to remarket that. That is so not challenging to do on paper, but here, because all of your limiting beliefs will come up. Like, no one will pay that. People will ask, why is it more expensive? So what we want to do is we want to run the numbers on the offers that we are doing. We want to see where our time is going. What's interesting when you do this as well is you'll start to look at your offer suite really differently. And there'll be some things that you do and you're like, why am I promoting this offer when I hardly make any money of it? And I should really promote this other offer as well. So there are ways around this if you realize that you are not profitable or you are hardly making any money from your business. There are things that you can do. But what I would do is do this spreadsheet. Now, this is going to depend on your financial setup if you are a sole trader versus a company, because what we need to remember is you get to take the profit, but we've also accounted for your hourly rate. So you're still going to be profitable, even if this is $1. But what we want to make sure is this is not in the negative. So if you need to pump it up a bit, you can. But what I would get you all to do here is sometimes the price of the offer doesn't need to change, but your energy investment or the deliverables need to change. And sometimes when we look back to a standard, this is, if I say this is going to be a half a day worth of work, it's half a day worth of work. I've had this before with clients for sell strategy sessions that are an hour, and then they'll say, I hate doing them. They're 3 hours worth of work. I'm like, hold on, what's happening? If we're selling the client an hour and you're doing 3 hours, what is that? You have to have a standard for yourself. And this is what I said earlier. Sometimes standards don't feel good because we've now created this new benchmark, and this is going to be new and it's going to bring all of our stuff up as well. For some of you, this is going to have to stop your people pleasing because you're going to realize that you are really over delivering here. Take some stuff out, because the thing is, we want to consider your longevity in business, and I don't want anyone to quit because you haven't done this work and you feel like you're working so much for no money. So we want to do this. No, knowing that, keeping that in mind, now let's move to column number 2. We're going to rate this out of 5, and we're going to say what's working, what's a leverage point we could do, and what's the standard. The people pleaser thing is going to be a lot. So I'm sorry if everyone's feeling called out. But no, this is really coming from a place of love. Like, I've worked with, you know what, educating in like things like this, thousands of people. If you feel like, oh my God, my situation's fucked, it's not. There's going to be so many people that experience the same stuff. The cool thing is you have clarity now to change the plan moving forward. How fun is that? So you're going to rate your offers. Are they scalable? Are they profitable? Do you get good money? Is there deep satisfaction? Do you feel like that they're U-shaped? If we are putting your services in a lineup, do yours stand out? Or is this like a coffee shop on the street where people are going to walk past because they're like, that's kind of musty and there's a smell? Like, how is it standing out? Now, what's working? What's working with your offers? Maybe you're like, well, you know what? What's working is the fact that although I'm not getting paid what I want, what's working is I feel like that I'm charging good money. It could be a bit more, but I'm charging like already in the thousands. Or what's working is I've got some really good offers. Like I've built out my intellectual property wardrobe and it's hot. You've got people to pay you. Like you've actually validated the offer. You know that people want it because you've already had a customer. A leverage point could be I'm going to actually go and run the profitability of my offers. Or a leverage point is I'm actually going to take the time to sit down and dissect how many hours or what goes into running this particular offer. Maybe that's your leverage point because maybe for you, you need awareness because you continually discount. And then you think about it. If you know that you're losing money, you're not going to discount. The standard is I honor the work and I charge a good price for it. Anything that happens above there, it'll be really easy to set that standard. Okay, we're going to move on to the next category. All right, this is you getting eyeballs. This is your lead generation and your visibility. We need people if we want to sell our stuff. We need people paying attention. Otherwise, we can have the best, sexiest products in the world and no one's going to buy them if they don't know we exist. What we also want to make sure is it's like not all traffic is going to be our traffic. We can think about vegans in a steakhouse. You could have the best steak in the world, but if you keep advertising to vegans who come in and they want a plant-based menu, you're going to be really confused. And you're going to second guess yourself thinking, how come no one wants what I'm selling? And it's because we're just not getting in front of like the right people. I just forgot I had a coffee. It's a bit cold now, but still good. We also want to build based on where we're going. For example, do I love LinkedIn? Not really. However, with the plans that I have with my business and Give Good Email, it is important for me that I am in front of marketing teams and people that do email marketing within their organization. There is bigger return because we can sell to multiple people within a business. So I need to be visible on there. Even though we're not really there yet, as we expand and if I bring someone into my business, it's like we need to kind of have eyeballs and exist in this particular area. What I want you to think about as well is attention still has a dollar value. I would need to go and find this, but I ran a workshop ages ago and I think it's something like that. It's like $1.10 USD a minute that someone is technically paying you if they're consuming your stuff. So even though this is a free event, you are still paying me because you think about it, you're not doing client work. You're not going and doing something else. You are paying me with your attention. And for that, I am so grateful. So even if people are yet to kind of become a customer, if they are consuming your work, they're interacting with your emails, sensational. That's like the first step. It's like the precursor to sales. What we also need to think about is that we need to have a plan for eyeballs daily. I don't mean that I expect you to show up every day, but what we want to think about is that we're showing up on platforms or we're doing particular lead generation strategies where we are being visible every single day, whatever that looks like. And then what we want to think about as well is the standards with this within our content so that we can attract people or repel people. So for me, a standard is I am not afraid to have hard conversations because I will say things that need to be said within our industry. Because of that, I will have usually people unsubscribe. I'll have people unfollow me. They're like, I don't like that. I'm like, that's fine. That's the truth though. You, especially if you have a spicier brand, you have a polarizing opinion, you may have to have a standard within that where it's like, if you believe things a certain way, don't keep your personality behind a paywall. Don't keep your like thoughts and beliefs behind a paywall. Put that out there because that is going to attract the people that you are for. I've written a recommendation here. When everyone goes online, how can you go personal? Do not overlook building relationships and old school networking. I have an example. My business is in the Commons. I think all up across all the locations, there's like 7,000 people in all of their different workspaces. They're doing an event next week. And I thought everyone was going out with a special invitation. They're like, no, we only asked 5 people per location in Melbourne. It was really interesting because I'm like, well, the reason I got asked is because I'm really visible. I'm really friendly. I network. I'm nice to everyone. It doesn't matter if you run the business or you're our beautiful cleaners. I'm still going to treat you the same and with respect. I think because of that, it's really worked well for my business. What you can think about here is when everyone is trying to automate everything, they're trying to ManyChat the fuck out of everything. No one wants to have a conversation. Everyone wants to use AI. These are going to be lost skills. You're going to have people who do not know how to network or go and speak in front of a room of people or go and introduce themselves. So this is going to be an underrated strategy. and really like drill down into this now, because trust me, I am seeing a complete difference with people now compared to a year ago, where no one wants to really do anything. So the more that you can be visible and foster those in-person connections, this can even look like, fun. Go and have a local coffee shop. That is a lead generation and visibility strategy. Peter has now told you that buying a cup of coffee a day is going to benefit your business, because the amount of clients that I've gotten from my local and the amount of people that I have met from just going to a particular coffee shop and meeting people. Please budget that in. You're now going to go and have a cup of coffee a day if you live near a place, and just go and chat with some people. Does that feel fun? Are we excited about our daily coffee? Look, if you want to do a bar and you want to go and get a martini, you can go and do that. It's probably going to be different from the coffee crowd. You're going to have different conversations, but it's still a strategy. So now we're going to rate that. How do we rate our lead generation? What's working? What's a leverage point? And then what's a standard? For me, my lead generation, I'm a 2. And I know some of you are like, you seem really good. We are, but compared to my goals, right? Remember, this comes back to your goal. If I want to make $620,000 in a year, we're probably going to have to do some paid marketing. I'm going to have to be a lot more visible than we are now. So I know that my lead generation is not in line with the goal that I've set. Can you kind of see how all of this works together? What's working though? I do really well organically. My content performs well organically. I can have a fucking conversation with someone and not freak out. Lovely ladies in the chat, this is just practice, right? Where you can practice this is if you do this with like free events. I think I followed a couple of you up and I was just like, how did you find the last event? Let me know if you want to come to the next one. The more that you can do this with stuff that doesn't have a call to action, or it's just you being a nice person, it's going to be easier. And what I want you to think about is it's like, instead of trying to make it feel comfortable, why don't we change the metrics? So you're like, let me do this. And if I feel like I'm going to shit myself 10 times, incredible. Like that's what we're now working towards. It's like, let me have like 10 conversations where I feel like I'm going to shit myself. And then you'll have one and you'll be like, oh no, that actually felt really good. I felt really fun. That was fine. And you'll surprise yourself. The leverage point for me could be, I'm going to go and ask one of my clients to record a quick little loom on just how to set up a Facebook ad. That's really simple. And then I can go and do that. For you, a leverage point could be, there is a local networking event and I am going to go to the next one. I am going to book a ticket. A leverage point could be, I'm just going to go and get a coffee tomorrow. And if I have the capacity to take my laptop and do some work, I'm just going to go and I'm going to sit there once a week for like an hour, right? It's that. And the standard is, I know my work is fucking incredible, so I'm going to let everyone know about it. A standard could be, I am great at what I do and I know that I can transform lives and I'm going to tell everyone about it. Or my work deserves to be seen. You want it to be something as well that feels good, where you're like, ooh, I like that. Even if it feels stretchy, that's fine as well. And then we've got our last category, the funnest one in the whole world. Sales comes before the service. I love sales. Who loves sales? Actually, who hates sales? How do we feel about sales? I think the thing is with sales is you all have good experiences with sales. All of you, every single one. The problem is when we think of sales, we go to the terrible experiences because they are the most visible. So we may go to the person that feels like they follow us up every week and they almost harass us. Or the emails that just agitate our pain points, telling us that we're basically fucked if we don't give this person money. So I've got another question for you. Who goes out and eats at restaurants? Do we love a good restaurant, like a nice restaurant dining experience? Perfect. Okay, great. When the person comes around and tells us the specials, they're selling to us. If they're like, do you want to see a dessert menu? Would you like another drink? How are the coffees? Do we want another round? Guess what they're selling to you? Isn't that interesting? Like you can look at it like that. So what I want you to think about for anyone on here that just has you've got a funny relationship with sales, I want you to think about where you love to be sold to in a way that doesn't feel like that it's selling. If you love dining out, it's going to be a really good dining experience. People that work in hospitality are masters of sales. And the reason that they are masters of sales is because they care about the person in front of them first. They don't want to sell you a glass of red wine if you don't drink red wine. They are here to serve what you want in the moment and nothing else. They're not going to convince you. They're going to be like, oh no, if you don't like oysters, don't get that. But if you do love the chicken, we have this really beautiful dish. This is what I would recommend. That's sales. We do the same thing in our business. And I want you to think about it like this. You're not going to sell something to someone that people, if they don't need it. Like if someone doesn't need something, you're not going to go and sell it to them because you're ethically, I know all of you, you're going to feel funny about that. And I've done that before with clients where I've said, look, I don't really know if you need this now, but I would do this. Still or sparkling water, $7 bottle for sparkling later, 100%. And the thing is with that, you know that you've had a bad experience if they don't tell you. If you're like, oh, still please, and then they bring out a bottle and they take the cap off and you're like, oh shit, I thought it was tap. I thought it was still out of a tap. How have we committed to this like $15 Italian water? Dinner's just certainly got a lot more expensive now, but they bought 3 bottles out. So everything that you are getting is data on a good experience and a bad experience. And the cool thing is you can be like, why did I like this? What didn't I like about it? And what you don't like when they don't tell you about the price of water is they're being a bit sneaky. They're hiding something. So you then get to be like, okay, cool. If I don't like being sneaky, that's fine. I can be more upfront. One of the ways that you can all do this if you're a service provider is put your prices or a guide on your website. That is one of the easiest ways. A lot of people keep their pricing behind the paywall. I'm not too sure why, because pricing also sets a standard of what people can expect from you. And this can be something really simple as, again, having a guide. Or if people have a contact form, it can be something where you have like a little radio button of it's like, select your budget for the job. And if you don't do anything that's under $2,000, don't put under $2,000, right? You don't sell anything. You'd say 2 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 plus. It could look something like that. This is where if you do feel funny with sales, you can have a lot of the infrastructure in your business supporting that. What I want to say as well with sales, one of the things that I see with clients is a lot of the times, the only time we talk about our price or selling is when we're actually selling. So if I have a client that's selling a $10,000 project, usually the only time they talk about the 10 grand is when they're pitching. They actually don't really have like a lot of practice with this, which is why they feel wobbly. Because you think about it, it's like, imagine if every time you ran, you weren't just going for a run around the fucking block, it was the Olympics. You'd be terrified. So what we need to make sure is that you are not selling, but you are saying your prices and what you do regularly. So it doesn't feel weird. And one of the ways that I do this, which is really random, I will just jokingly tell people that they can give me some money or pay me some money. People at work will be like, how are you? I'm like, look, I'm fantastic, but I would be a lot better if someone gave me 20 grand right now. And I normalize the money that I want to charge within conversations that I have. One thing that you can do as well is, especially if going through this, you've worked out that you need to charge more money. If this feels like it's been a huge jump, one of the best things that you can do is to identify the lifetime spend that a customer has spent with you. I had this with a service provider that I worked with last year. She was charging about $2,000 a month. And it's really funny. She's like, oh, I don't sell high ticket. Like no one wants to pay me big sums of money. And I was like, I don't know where this is coming from because you have retainer pricing. So it's not like this is a once-off $2,000 offer. And it's because she was so drilled down on this amount. And I said to her, what's the lifetime money that they've spent with you? And she worked out it was $50,000. And I said, you've had a $50,000 client. So what I got her to say is she just said, I've had a $50,000 client. People love to pay me $50,000. I'm so good at business that people have paid me 50 grand and I haven't even noticed it. How wild is that? And we normalized the money so that when she went and had these sales conversations, she wasn't freaking out about the number. If she was selling a $5,000 project, all of a sudden that feels easy because she's had this 50 grand sale across a retainer. So you can start to do stuff like this if you feel like when you talk about your pricing, you're like, ugh. And the more visible you make stuff, when people are putting their hand up to work with you, they already know the pricing. This isn't about you like closing the deal and getting them across the line. It's about like extending your relationship just to that next level. It's like you've already had a really good experience. What's it going to look like if we get closer proximity? Or if now I'm responsible for delivering some transformation with you? And I think sometimes we can make this out to be this really big thing, especially, and this is going to be big for you, if you feel like that your business financially is not doing that well at the moment. This has been something I've seen a lot with people that work in health. Because health, like if you are in allied health, like you're a massage therapist, even Pilates, you're not really dealing with bigger sums of money. Like if we think about a Pilates class, like Karen, I don't know what you're charging, but there was once a point where I was selling $10 Pilates classes. So if I was then thinking, oh, I want to sell a course and it's $500. If I was having a really quiet week, I automatically assume that no one has money and no one's going to spend that, but they will. You know, people like if they have money or they want to find the money, it's not your business about like how they get it. But don't put your financial situation thinking that someone else has that. And this was something I probably did for 10 fucking years, where I was like, if I'm struggling, everyone's struggling, where it is just not the case. Why I love email marketing is if you can create automated strategies or write sales copy, especially if it's email, you just need to get in really good sales energy once. Like if you get a huge sale that comes through, you're like, whoa, I am incredible. I am so good. Everyone loves to pay me. Great. When you're in that energy, go and write those comms, write the sales comms, because you only need to do that work once. So that's something to think about as well, is if you don't love sales and it feels a bit funny, get yourself in a really good state where it feels incredible and you're like, people love to pay me. And then you can create like your email automations from that. Now, as I said here, old school ways will reign supreme in 2025 when people are using automation, building relationships, having a conversation, not being a fucking weirdo is going to be like a really, really good business strategy. So now let's score this with our little rating out of 5. We're going to write what's working. We're going to write a leverage point and then a standard. So if you're like, I'm terrible at sales, I'm awful, it's 0. Okay, great. What's working? I'm conscious of how bad I am, right? Like you can always find goodness in even stuff that's not working. Or maybe you're like 1. I put a call to action out. I put a link up. I actually have my offers so that people can pay me. They're not so hidden on my website. Like there's links for people to pay me. A leverage point could be that maybe you're just going to start talking more about what you do. Or a leverage point is that you are going to follow up 2 people a week. Or if you have people that want a proposal, the leverage point is you're actually going to follow them up instead of waiting for people to come to you. And then a standard could be something like, I deserve to charge great money, or I'm worthy of the money that I charge. I'm worthy of the price on my website. A standard could be people have to pay me, like make it fun. For some of you, this is probably out of all of the categories, this is going to be the one where you're like, help me. That's okay. This is going to come with practice. This is the stuff. The sales category is going to be something where it's like, this is where your little entrepreneurial lesson happens. Now, the last area is mindset. We don't have a column for that, but what you'll notice as we've gone through this workshop is there is mindset layered over the top of absolutely everything. And this is why when people are like, I need to work on my mindset, you've got mindset when it comes to your pricing. You have your mindset when it comes to goals. You have your mindset with your visibility strategy on your sales, like everything within your business. It is going to be layered like over the top, like a little piece of contact. As you grow and evolve and hit like new income levels or you get a new client, you're going to always have to work on your mindset. So it's not going to be this kind of thing where you're like, tick, the brain's fucking fabulous. Like life, throw me anything. I'm going to be great at it. But the best thing that you can do here is to work on your mindset to make things a standard, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable, like just be like, this is new. It's like when you get a new bra and you're like, I know this fits me really well, but fuck, I want to go to that one that's just like sagging in the back and just does not fit me properly. It's like that. And then you wear it for 2 days and you're like, holy shit, hold on, no, this is so comfortable. I look incredible. The girls look sensational. My life is completely different. I can't believe that I had that. So it's like a new bra. And then what you want to remember as well is you only need things to happen like once for you to have the ability for it to positively impact your mindset. So what I mean by that is it's like if you just have a new price on your website and you charge more and you sell one, congratulations. And what you can do is you can think about how this has already happened. Like how can you look for data that you are actually great at sales? And maybe it's that you have people who are like, oh my gosh, I've paid straight away. I'm so excited. No one said, oh my God, that process was so stressful. I've had to book a psychologist appointment. They're probably really excited. And that's after they've paid you money. So people are actually really excited to pay you. So again, just start to look for data and add that to your evidence bag around how you're good at sales or how your offers are amazing. From here, I want you to let me know what is your highest rated area and what was your lowest rated area. What is really interesting about this is quite often the area that people don't need to focus on is where they obsess in their business. They're like, let me think about my offers. And for some of you, you may be like, actually, it's not my offers. I'm terrible at sales. Or I'm fine at sales, but I just have no one to sell it to because I don't have a visibility strategy. So you want to get clear on what you have working for you and what is letting you down. Now that you know all this, on how many times have you been sucked into someone's shit online because they're like, you need to work on your offer. If your offer, like you just need to get the messaging right. And you can see here how you can be really busy on the wrong things in your business. But now that you've got clarity, you know exactly where to focus, right? There are so many people that are like, you just need one offer. And if it was so good, people just want to buy it. We've had people make $1 million fucking dollars from Give Good Email and I still have to sell it. Like we have so many case studies, like so many. We still have to sell it. The offer's great. The problem is we just don't have enough eyeballs. So where this is going to be really good, and now you've got a process, is you're not going to get sucked into the noise of what is happening online and then working on something that's just not going to give you a result. All of you now are finishing up this call today knowing exactly where your attention needs to be. Now, on that Notion sheet down the bottom, there are areas where you get to write all of this and you get really clear on it. And that's basically your sexy little business plan that you are going to stick to. Now, what you can do here as well is now that we've got this process, you can apply this to any goal. Like if you wanted to make $1 million, how would you make it? Like, what's the goal? I want to make $1 million. Is there anything else there? Maybe you want to make $1 million in school hours. Or maybe you want to make $1 million and have 3 months of the year off because you want to go to Italy. What's that look like? What are you selling? What are the products that you are selling for that? So, if I want to make $1 million, what am I selling? I want to make $1 million selling Give Good Email. Who am I selling it to? Well, that's a lot of sales. So what would be really smart here is maybe this is where I need to sell it to the marketing teams. I don't want to move just one Give Good Email. I want to sell it to 10 people that work in a marketing team. And when start to learn this is where you'll look at things in your business differently and you'll see gaps. Like this is where it gets really fun. And this is where when you master this plan, oh my gosh, it's so easy. You will never be at a loss at how to make money in your business because you've got this kind of process that you are now working towards. And this would be something really fun for you to play around with post-call where it's like, cool, if I want to make $500,000, what would this look like? If I want to make $500,000 in 3 days a week, what would this look like? And kind of start to stretch your offers and what you're doing and see within this, who are you selling to? See if there are new markets or easier ways to sell. And then how you're selling, see if there is an easier sales process or a different sales process that you can do. Now, we've just given you, what have I written here? Don't you love how you do slides and you're like, what was this? We've just given you a bird's eye view of what your business looks like and it will be enough to get in motion and see a change, and it will. For, I think, a lot of you, this is going to be something where it is highlighted exactly where your attention needs to be. For some of you, you may have never business planned. You've just turned up, you've created some offers and you're selling them and you're posting. That's fine. Now you've got a framework, and that template I give you is personally what I use. There is a bit more to it, but that is going to be enough to get you started. I will say that the most transformation that you are going to have within your business is creating really high standards in each of these areas, in each of goals, and then your mindset as well. This is going to be where pay attention to your thoughts, what comes up, and make sure that you create like a standard around everything, especially if it's an area you need to focus on. So for everyone that said lead gen and sales, create some standards within that. So this could be a standard is I promote my business every day. I follow people up that request information. I follow them up again. Even if they leave me on red, I'm going to follow them up. Like you can start to create a standard so that that category that is your weakest will probably become your strongest. But thank you so, so much for coming. If you do want to go deeper with me, I do have a really incredible program called Business Bang. This process really forms the basis of Business Bang, where you'll create your goals plan. We do call it a fame plan in there, where we really build this out. It is a 6-month group program. If you want to get started now, but you're like, but I want the deduction next financial year and I want to do this next financial year, in Business Bang, you start with a strategy session with me, which is like a 1-to-1. You'll do a big intake form. Then we meet because I'm a consultant, I'm not like, what do you want to do? I'm like, right, there's a gap here. This is what you need to focus on. This is what you need to focus on. And I will specifically tell you what to do. We can actually do that now. You can pay for that now. And then when you're ready to start next financial year, we can just deduct that because you've already paid it. So that is an option that is available to you. So thank you so much, everyone. If you are watching the replay, I hope you've loved this. If you are with me live, thank you for giving me not only your beautiful energy, your questions in the chat, but also spending your morning with me. Have the sexiest day. Go and be visible. Go and sell something. Remember who the fuck you are and be awesome. I love you. Bye, everyone.